Hi, my name is Lavinia, this is Peter. Welcome to Games Made Easy. Today we'd like to teach you and give you some tips on how to play Terra Mystica. What I enjoy the most in Terra Mystica is how intense the games get. There are only 6 rounds, so you need to start early and can't skip a beat. It's really very exciting. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. In Terra Mystica, you're in charge of a faction, eager to transform the land of Terra Mystica to match your requirements and to develop more successfully than your opponents. In this game, there is no combat. You will need to claim terrain faster and develop your faction better to win the game. To do that, you will need to expand your territory by transforming terrain into your preferred type, so you can expand your dwellings and upgrade these into bigger structures. At the same time, you will develop 4 cults so you can increase your power and gain more rewards. After 6 rounds, you add the points you've gained throughout the game with the rewards for the largest territory and the order in each cult. The player with the most points wins the game. Let's have a look at the components in the game. This is the game board and it's 7 types of terrain. Each faction has 1 color matching the type of terrain it can build on. Blue lakes, brown plains, black swamps, grey mountains, green forests, yellow deserts, and red wastelands. At the beginning of the game, the players draw or pick one of the 14 factions. They get a board and a set of structures. There's 7 boards with a different faction on each side. Now, each of these factions have special powers or abilities, which I'll review later. Now, for now, place your 8 dwellings here like this, your 4 trading posts here, your stronghold, your 3 temples, and your sanctuary here. Now, we have 3 bridges, 7 priests, and 7 markers. Just keep them on the side for easy access. So now that players have their individual components, let's set up the game. You put the map on the middle of the table and you put the cult board next to it. Each player puts 4 markers in the cult boards, 1 for each type. This one's the fire, this is a water, this is an earth cult, and this one's air. Keep the terrain tiles, the money, the workers, and the town tiles nearby. And place 6 action tokens on the board here, and the rest, just keep them on the side. Then take the oval favor tiles and split them in 12 piles per cult and per level. Then you need to select these rectangular scoring tiles. You pick 6, 1 for each round. Place them on the game board from 6th to 1st round. There's 2 halves on these scoring tiles. Note that if you pick the scoring tile with the spade on the left side for spaces 5 or 6, reshuffle it with the others and continue to draw randomly. The left-hand side shows extra points which can be scored during that round for building specific structures, founding towns, or transforming. The right-hand side is a one-off end-of-round benefit and is based on the progress on specific cult tracks. Finally, place the game end token on the right side of the 6th round. This end-of-round score will not be played. Put those you don't need back in the box. We also place the bonus cards on the side. Each player will pick 1 at the beginning of each round. There are a total of 9 bonus cards in Terra Mystica. They provide additional income, unlock special actions, and awards for specific structures at the end of the round. Now, you randomly select the cards for your game by picking 3 more than there are players and returning the others. So for a 3-player game, it'll be 6 cards. If it's your first game, it's a good idea to follow the setup recommended in pages 5 and 6 of the rulebook, because it will tell you which faction, scoring tiles, and bonus cards to pick. It will also recommend where to put your first dwellings. Now, let's have a look at what makes each faction unique. Here's the transformation cycle with the 7 types of terrain. Now, the one on top is the home terrain where this faction can build on. Here you will also see the faction starting resources. You take the workers, the coins, and sometimes priests indicated, and you place them on your faction board. In this case, this faction will get 2 workers and 15 coins. Then you're going to move the corresponding cult markers 1 up for each symbol shown on your faction board. In this case, it's 1 up for fire and 1 up for earth. Then we're going to place the 3 remaining markers, 1 at the bottommost of the base of the spade track and 1 at the leftmost space on the shipping track, and the last one on the 20 of the victory point track on the game board. You also need to set up the power. You're going to distribute 12 power tokens to each player, and these are going to be split between the bowl of power 1 and the bowl of power 2. This is bowl 1 and this is bowl 2. So at the start of the game, you're going to put the number of tokens that says here and here. So in this one it's 5, and in this one it's 7. Now in Terra Mystica, you do not gain new powers. You simply spend and upgrade the powers in a constant cycle. Whenever you're gaining power, you're actually upgrading it as if it was maturing. To do that, you move your power tokens from ball 1 to 2 and from 2 to 3. You can only use the power when it is in ball 3, and then when you spend it, it moves back to ball 1. You always upgrade the lowest power first. So let's say in this case you were to gain 6 powers. You first move 5 tokens from ball 1 to ball 2. And then you have 1 more power you gained. Now you can move it into ball 3. You can only move from ball 2 to 3 once ball 1 is empty. You can always use all the powers that you have in ball 3, even if you have tokens in ball 1 and ball 2. So once all power tokens are in ball 3, you cannot gain more power. Now, before I go further, I'm going to explain how you score points throughout the game and at the end of the 6th round. Now, there's a lot of ways to score points during the game. Whenever you see this symbol with a number, you may score points. So each of the 6 rounds have a scoring tile. Everything on the left makes you score more points for specific actions during that round. In these cases here, when you build structures, you get extra points. Here's when you do a town and when you transform terrain. Now, you'll need to plan ahead and chart your own path to maximize the points you will score through the 6 rounds. Some favorite tiles also award victory points, 2 of them when you build a structure during that round, either a dwelling or a trading house. And the third one at the end of the round rewards the number of trading houses you have on the board when you pass. You can also score between 5 and 9 victory points when founding a town. We will see how you found towns later. You also get points when improving your shipping or terraforming skills. Some factions have special abilities that provide victory points, like the alchemists, the halflings, the witches, the dwarves, or the fakirs. Or when you build a stronghold with the cultists, the engineers, and the dwarves. Now, 3 out of the 9 bonus cards reward specific buildings completed when you pass. It can be your number of dwellings, trading houses, or stronghold and sanctuary. Now, there are 2 extra ways to gain points at the end of the game. The first are awarded to the 3 players who have the largest connected area as shown on the board here. And the second is for players who score based on their progress on each cult. Now we're ready to start placing our first structures. Most factions will start by placing 2 dwellings on the map. Starting with the first player and proceeding clockwise, each player places 1 dwelling on their home terrain. At this point, it has to be their home terrain because you cannot transform terrain at this time. Then the last player places a second dwelling, and each player in counterclockwise order places their second dwelling, so that the first player is the last to place his second dwelling. Now, some races have a different starting condition, so check first. The Chaos Magicians only place 1 dwelling after all have placed. You take the dwellings from your faction board from left to right. Now we're ready to start playing, and each player needs to pick a bonus card. You start with the last player and proceeding counterclockwise so that the first player picks last. Every time you see the hand symbol like this, it means you score this at the beginning of the round during the income phase. And the scroll like this is scored at the end of the round when you pass. So this one gives you a priest at the beginning. This one 3 powers and 1 worker. 6 coins here. This one also increases your shipping value, while these last 2 let you take a special action. Then place 1 coin from the supply on each power left over so that they become more attractive with time. Now, once all this is done, you're ready to start playing. Now, all 6 rounds go through 3 phases. You have the income phase, you have the action phase, which takes most of the game, and you have the cult bonuses and cleanup phase. Now, for the income phase, all players resolve it at the same time. Every component marked by an open hand is resolved during the income phase. It depends on the structures you've built, the bonus card you've chosen, and later in the game on the favors you've collected. In your first round, the income phase is added to your faction-specific starting income. Most income is revealed on your faction board as you build more structures. The workers come from your dwelling track, the coins and power from your trading house track, the priest from your temple track and sanctuary. You also gain more power once you've built your stronghold. Put the newly gained income on your faction board. Don't forget to also add the income from your bonus card and favor tiles if you have. If you ever run out of coins or workers, just use something else to replace them with. It's only the priests that are limited. Now it's time for the second phase, which is the action phase. Starting from the first player, each player takes one action at a time. We have this tile here that tells us all 8 available actions. The first action is to transform and build. You can only build dwellings, and you can only build them on unoccupied and adjacent terrain, but that terrain needs to be your home terrain, so you will need to transform that adjacent terrain into your home terrain. Refer to your transformation cycle on your faction board to see the cost of transforming that terrain. Now that cost is 1, 2, or 3 spades, depending on the terrain you transform. You buy each spade by spending workers. You can also gain the spades from power actions, bonus cards, special powers, or wherever you see the spade symbol. They can also be added together. Once you've transformed a terrain into your home terrain, you may, if you wish, build a dwelling immediately on this terrain. While this counts as the same action, you still need to pay the cost of the dwelling. For most factions, it's 1 worker and 2 coins as indicated here. You always take the leftmost dwelling available from your faction board. If you gain 2 spades, but you only need 1 to transform into your home terrain, you can spend the other spade in an adjacent terrain space. You just can't build a second dwelling in that same action. Finally, you can transform a terrain into anything you want. It doesn't have to be your home terrain, but even in that case, it needs to be directly or indirectly adjacent to one of your structures. Now, it's important to understand the difference between direct and indirect adjacency in Terra Mystica. Now, direct adjacency is any terrain that directly touches one of your structures, including a bridge. Indirect adjacency is when the terrains are separated by a number of river spaces lower or equal than the shipping value shown on your faction board. Now, the second action on the card is to increase the shipping value. If you want to expand beyond rivers without a bridge, you will need a higher shipping value. To advance the shipping track is an action. Move your marker and collect the victory points. You pay the cost, usually 1 priest and 4 coins. Every step you move up the track, expand 1 more hex, your indirect reach across rivers. Now, the third action is lowering the cost of spades. Like for the shipping track, pay the cost, move the marker, and collect the victory points. Each spade now costs less. The fourth action is upgrading a structure. The only structure you can actually build are dwellings. Everything else is an upgrade from dwellings. Follow the arrows on the faction board to see what is the next upgrade possible. Trading houses can upgrade into strongholds or temples, while temples can only upgrade into sanctuary. You pay the cost, put the old building back on the faction board, and take the leftmost new building. Now, the cost of trading houses can vary. If the upgraded dwelling is next to the structure of an opponent, the trading house costs half the coins. Note that at this point, you change your next income production. When upgrading into a temple or sanctuary, you gain a favor immediately. These will remain until the end of the game. Also, the stronghold gives access to a faction bonus and a permanent new ability specific to your faction. You will keep those until the end of the game. Another important rule to note here is that you may decide to gain power when one of your neighbors builds or upgrades next to you. This won't depend on what they are building, but on what you have. You can see on the board that each structure has a power value. Dwellings have a power value of 1, trading houses and temples of 2, and the stronghold and sanctuary the highest value of 3. Every time you build a dwelling or upgrade a structure directly adjacent to another player's structures, that player can choose to gain power. That power is equal to the power value of the buildings directly adjacent to the newly built structure. Unfortunately, that power costs victory points, 1 less victory point than the power gained. For instance, the green player upgrades his dwelling to a trading house and informs the yellow player that it can gain 3 powers, and in this case would lose 2 victory points. Players always have a choice to take that power. It's never mandatory. Note that the player who is building the structure does not gain that extra power, only the other players. Another example, here the yellow player upgrades the trading house into a stronghold and informs the green player that it can gain 2 powers but lose 1 victory point. Finally, it's an all or nothing option. Players cannot take part of that power. The fifth action, you can send one of your priests on a cult track. Take one of the priests you received during the income phase and place it on the number 3 or 2 at the bottom of one of the 4 cult tracks. That priest will remain there until the end of the game, and you move your marker 3 or 2 spots up. If you cross a purple number, gain that power once. Note that if the 4 positions already have priests on them, you can only score 1 point, but you do not leave the priest on the track. Unlike the priests that you place at the bottom of the cult track on the 3 or 2, the priests that move up the track 1 step will go back into your reserve. You can only get to number 9 like this. To get to number 10, you'll need to have founded 1 town first. Also, only 1 player can get to the 10 on each track, and you will need to have founded 2 towns to get to a second 10. In addition, at the end of the first 5 rounds, you will be able to score additional bonuses based on how high you got on the relevant cult track. Finally, at the end of the game, players score for their respective positions on each individual cult track as shown on the game board. 8 points for the player highest on the track, 4 for the second, and 2 for the third. In case of tie, add up and split rounded down. If you are still at 0, you cannot score anything. The 6th action is to take a power action from the board. These are very powerful and worth using as often as possible. Move the number of power tokens from ball 3 to ball 1 equal to the indicated cost to take that power action. They are used once per round on a first come first turn basis, so be quick if you don't want to lose your chance. Remember that you can gain the power you need from many different places. During the income phase with the trading houses and the stronghold, 2 of the 9 bonus cards or 2 favors. You can also receive a one-time reward when founding one of the towns. There's also a specific scoring bonus at the end of the round phase, and of course from the priests as we've just seen. If you're short of power, you can also sacrifice power. This does not count as an action and can be performed at any time. You can force move power tokens from ball 2 to ball 3. For each token you move this way, you need to discard 1 extra from ball 2, as shown here. That token is out until the end of the game. There's a second free action you can perform at any time, and that's conversion. Conversions are indicated on that chart. You can perform as many of them as you want, whenever you want. Like the sacrifice, they are not considered turn actions. The 7th action are special actions you can get from 1 bonus card, 1 favor tile, or the stronghold. They can be played once per round. Use the markers to keep track of the actions you have taken. The 8th action, once you have no more actions to take or you have decided to pass, that marks the end of that round for you and you can't play during that round anymore. Now the first player to pass will take the first player token for the next round. Immediately return your bonus card, score the end of round victory points on it, if any, and pick one of the available bonus cards and the coins on it. You cannot take the card you've just discarded. Flip your new bonus card until the next income phase to show you have passed. This marks the end of your turn. Of course, you skip this step in the 6th round. Once everyone has passed, you start the last phase of this round, which is the cult bonuses and the cleanup phase. You score all the additional points on the cult track progresses for additional bonus. You can score that bonus multiple times if you can. So in this case, the green player would get 1 spade, because he's at 4, and the yellow player would get 2 spades because he's at 10. Note that if you gain spades, you cannot save them for later, but you can use them on multiple adjacent terrains. Remember that you cannot build a dwelling on them during this phase. You also cannot top them up with spades from your faction board. Once all the players have scored, you can clean up. Refresh all your action tokens from your favors, your faction board, and the main board. Flip back your bonus card and take a new action token if needed. Place new coins from the supply on the 3 bonus cards left behind. Turn the scoring tile face down. Now all players can start the next round's income phase. But before we do that, I want to show you an alternative rule that was introduced with the Fire and Ice expansion. In the original rules, the playing order is set in clockwise position starting from the first player who passed. But that's not necessarily fair because it doesn't match the actual order when players passed. Instead, you can keep track of the passing order by using the home terrain tokens of all the players, so 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th player. Now there's one last game mechanism I want to show you, and that is founding a town. Towns are founded automatically whenever 2 conditions are met. The first is that at least 4 structures are adjacent to one another, unless it includes a sanctuary, and then you'd only need 3 structures like here. The second condition is that their combined power value is at least of 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7. Remember, the power value is shown on the faction board, and if you have that favor, you'd only need a power value of 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When you found a town, pick one of the remaining 5 town tiles, gain its one-time bonuses, and place it under one of the buildings of that town. To make sure to show you that the game is not that complicated, let's run through a quick round. Both players collect their income. Don't forget your bonus and favor cards. The yellow player starts and sacrifices power and buys 2 spade transform action on 2 terrains, but builds only 1 dwelling for 1 worker and 2 coins, and scores a bonus. Now the green player chooses to gain 2 powers and lose 1 point. The green player goes second and transforms territory with 3 worker cubes and builds a dwelling also for 1 worker and 2 coins. And he also scores the bonus. Now the yellow refuses to gain 2 powers as he doesn't want to lose 1 point. The yellow now upgrades the temple into a sanctuary. Now the green could also gain 2 powers, but refuses. The yellow takes the favor. Remember, you cannot take twice the same favor. The yellow goes up 2 points up the fire cult track and gains power. Most importantly, he can now found a town and scores the 1 of bonus. The green upgrades the shipping track as he wants to be able to build across the river, pays 1 priest and 4 coins, and scores 2 victory points immediately. The yellow passes and keeps the first player token. He returns his bonus card and gets a new one. The green builds a dwelling across the river. Then the green transforms and builds and then decides to pass and picks 1 new bonus card. Yellow gains 1 power. All players score end of round bonuses, and that's the end of the round. The player with the most points wins the game. Let's look at a possible end of game scoring. The green has a shipping value of 1 and therefore has 10 structures directly and indirectly connected. But the yellow has a shipping value of 2 and connects all its 12 structures, so it gets 18 points and the green gets 12. Now on the cult tracks, the yellow scores 8, 8, 4, and 4, so 24 points, and the green 4, 0, 8, and 8, so 20 points. And in case of a tie, there can be more than 1 winner. That's how you play Terra Mystica. It takes a bit of time to learn, but it's not that difficult once you get used to it. Then you really enjoy the depth of strategies and how competitive it is. It's one of the most intense games I know. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, or leave in the comments a game you'd like me to teach. I will make more games easy soon. Bye!